Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound.
Innocent victim of this homicidal maniac. The insidious Joker has been here already. He always leaves his victims laughing.
Oh, poor Mr. Wilson.
Holy Superhero Month, Batman. Greetings and salutations, everyone. So if you want to know how I turned my boring IKEA Bolton board into a cool Superman one, this is how I did it. So I'm just using sky blue and I think baby blue or powder blue. I'm not quite sure. Just canvas quality acrylics. I've already put one coat on here. The initial coat, I did film it and the footage disappeared, so that's fun. Anywho, so all I'm doing here is I'm just squirting out the paint for the second coat, and I'm using a sponge brush. Nothing super fancy for this, because I quite frankly didn't know how much the cork in the corkboard would take up. I don't know how thick the cork is in this or anything like that. I don't know if it's just a thin layer and then there's like cardboard underneath or anything like that, because I didn't deconstruct this to see what was going on. This is just a cheap Bolton board from IKEA, and yeah, so I'm going to use a sponge brush just to see how much would take in. I did initially try to use Crayola finger paint, which is something that I commonly do when I'm doing this kind of thing, just to see if like it'll give like a different dimension to what I'm working on, especially because it was a darker blue and it was the only dark blue I had. But I put that on and it was soaked in instantaneously. So I had to go up with canvas quality acrylics, which I put on straight. As you can see, I tried to get it out and it didn't work. I tried multiple times. Okay. So I ended up doing 2 coats of the 2 different blues, and I just did it like I showed you. And then I proceeded to take an entire hour to try to figure out how I was going to do the thing. I ended up just printing out a reference image because I was doing other things with my phone and it was just easier. I put the reference image in the center where I wanted it to be, and I tried to sketch out on the actual thing, but I couldn't. I tried highlighters, I tried pencils, I tried everything. Nothing would sketch out. So what I ended up doing, and by the way, this is 2 days after this last coat. So I let it dry for 2 days. Okay. So what I did was I just put it down in the center. I just put my reference image in the center. You could totally do it on your phone or whatever. But as you can see, I was using my phone and watching a live stream on Instagram. So I just set up the reference image in the middle and I used some painter's tape and I just taped everything down. I figured it out by using the reference image and just sort of carefully taped everything down, and then I was going to use the tape width as the width of the different lines and the different sections. So I did end up shortening it in places with a just standard, I guess, utility knife. So nothing too fancy or too expensive or too drastic at all. Super inexpensive materials that you can do this with. So yeah, I just played around with it, and I did end up using fancy painter's tape because quite frankly that's what I had on me, and I didn't want to rip up any of the paint that I had spent so long doing. And yeah, it's really honestly simple. I just played around with it and did it. If I was going to do anything more complicated than this, something that I couldn't easily sketch out or easily have a reference image for, I would recommend making a stencil. I did try to do that for this, but I didn't end up having enough time to make the stencil and get the video out in the crazy filming schedule I'm currently on. So that is another option that you can do. Okay, so this is kind of going to look like a mistake here. So it's going to look like I made a mistake by painting the yellow down here first, which is a super pale, I think it's lemon yellow. I think that's the color it is. I'm not positive off the top of my head. down here first and using that where the red should be. I didn't do that on the S because I forgot. Actually, in the center of the symbol, I forgot. So I did do it on the edges. It was an actual accident. I do have dyslexia, in case you didn't know, and sometimes it's bad enough that I even reverse colors. Oh, I'm also using some squeezy paint here that I just got from the dollar store to help sharpen up the lines. Nothing super expensive or fancy. I actually don't recommend doing this. It didn't work very well, but it does give it kind of a cool effect. So do it for the effect, not the lines. So I did actually end up reversing where the yellow and the red are supposed to be somehow in my head. It is what it is. And I then just pulled out my red and I put it over, and it actually ended up working a lot better because the red looks a lot sharper, in my opinion, than the red does without the yellow base. So yeah, then I just hung it back up like I had done for every other time to let it dry on the command hooks that I actually let this thing live on. They're just the longer command hooks, like Velcro strip thingies. And yeah, I just let it dry like that. I didn't have any issues with dripping or anything. I didn't have any issues with any of that. You might, if you use a less like thick paint, if you use like more of a standard acrylic, or if you use more of like a finger paint kind of a situation, you probably will end up having that happen. But I didn't have that happen at all. It was really, really easy. Honestly, this is probably one of the easiest DIYs I've ever done. And I've been using it for a few days now, like I normally do. I haven't noticed any tearing or rippling or anything like that. I'll let you know if I ever do. But yeah, this is a super duper easy DIY that you can do. All you need is a corkboard and some paint. And yeah, tag me on Instagram and let me know what yours look like. Okay, alright. You come with a broken heart, we'd be mended back together. Love you, bye. You love the madhouse insanity that is my life and this channel. You can hit that sometimes red, sometimes not, sometimes here, sometimes there, sometimes on Poison Ivy's tummy. Subscribe button, and I'll see you again later. Ring the bell so that Alfred can let you in the building. And if you have questions, comments, or suggestions, put them in the chamber of secrets down below. I love you. Any links to important things I talked about here, as well as the best link that I can possibly to the supplies that I used, in case you want to do exactly what I did, will be in the dungeons directly below this video, including links to all of my social media. Thank you. I love you. And I'll see you again later. Bye!